It is now our zechus to be mechabed Rav Yissocher Frand, Rosh Yeshivas Ner Yisrael, Baltimore, to address the Siyum.
HaShas, Reish HaGudas Yisrael, Hoad Murmin Domavinsk, Chavri Moetzes Gdele HaTera, Ronav Rabbanim Rabbeisai. A childless woman once traveled from Bnei Brak to Yerushalayim Yerakodesh, which in those days was an arduous journey. She came to ask the Brisker Rav for a bracha that she should be zeicha to a child. She explained to the Rav's son that she had been married for many years and how desperate she was. The Rav's son was so moved that he asked his father if he could see her right away. The Brisker Rav told his son to tell the woman to come back later. She came back once again, and again the Brisker Rav told the woman to come back that evening. She came back that evening, and the Rav gave her a heartfelt bracha. After the woman left, the son asked his father, the Rav, why 3 times? And the Rav explained that that night he was making a Siyum on Masechtas Vachim. He said that the time of the Siyum is an Eis Ratzain, an opportune and propitious time, and he wanted to give her a bracha at that Shas Rachamim of the Siyum. A year later, the woman had a healthy baby boy. If the Siyum of one Masechta is what the Brisker Rav called an Eis Ratzain, can we begin to fathom what an auspicious moment a Siyum of all of Shas by hundreds of thousands of Yidden is like? And maybe it is Kedai in this moment of time, this Eis Ratzain, to ask the Ribbono Shel Olam for all that you may need, both on a personal level and for all of Klal Yisrael. And he will hopefully respond as he did to Shlomo HaMelech at the time of the first Siyum HaTorah. Vayemer Elokim Sha'al Ma'atein Lach, ask and I will give you. But perhaps there is something else that we should do in these precious moments, and that's to reflect on the emotions that are going through our hearts and minds at this moment as we gather here with thousands of other Yidden. What is it that we are feeling? I'm sure that there's an entire spectrum of emotions: simcha, excitement, passion, feeling of achdus, a sense of history. And for those of you who have finished Shas, there is a legitimate and deserved sense of pride in what you have accomplished. But even for those of you not making a Siyum, there's also a sense of pride. Pride that I am part of this vast Olam HaTorah, and proud how far we have come in the last 75 years since the great Churban of Europe. And that should lead us all to a sense of gratitude and hakaras hatov to the Ribbono Shel Olam, who b'chazdei hagadol has rebuilt Klal Yisrael on the Olam HaTorah. And the key ingredient in that renaissance and that rebirth has been Torah bichlal and Limud HaTalmud bifrat. Mr. Joseph Friedison, a historian and the editor of the Das Yiddische Wort, remembered when he was a young boy and the Nazis came into his house to steal money. On the way out, the soldiers noticed his father's bookcase with a large set of Vilna Shas. They asked him, "What are those books?" Innocently and naively, he responded and he says, "Those are the books of the Talmud." These are Mr. Friedison's words as he describes what happened next. I will never forget the Nazis' reaction. As if a cauldron of boiling water had fallen on his bare skin, he jumped up, his face contorted in rage. Then, with a diabolical hatred and brutality, the Nazis threw the volumes on the floor and began kicking them with their heavy boots. When that was not successful in destroying the heavily bound volumes, they took out the Shas, ripping page by page until they threw it onto the street below. Because an integral component of the anti-Jewish philosophy of the Nazis was its hatred for the Talmud. One of the first decrees that the Nazis, when they took over Poland, was that no exit visas by Orthodox Jews would be accepted. The title that they gave from Jews was Talmud lehrers, Talmud teachers, and Talmudische Juden. They proclaimed, and listen to this, the learners and the teachers of the Talmud have the power to rebuild Judaism in America. And guess what? They were 100% correct. And you are those Talmud lehrers and those Talmudische Juden. Sitting here today is a Holocaust survivor, a Talmud of Rav Michael Ber Weissmandel. His grandson contacted me and said, why is he here today? Because when Rav Michael Weissmandel was negotiating with Alois Brunner, Adolf Eichmann's lieutenant, Yamach Shemom, to spare thousands of poor Slovakian Jews, because he told them they're not rich bankers, what do you want from them? And Brunner replied, these Jews will take the Bible to America. And this elderly Holocaust survivor is here because in his words, I want to be here to see the Bible in America. And what is true on a national level is true on an individual level as well. Just as Torah and Talmud are the oxygen that keep Klal Yisrael alive, without which we would wither as a nation. And as even the Nazis understood, this is true on an individual level as well. A Yid without limud HaTorah in some form will eventually decline and wither and wane in his Yiddishkeit. We do not fully understand and comprehend and appreciate what limud HaTorah does to the soul of a Yid. And that is the transformative, supernatural power of the Torah on the Yiddish neshama. Here's a story of one individual, but I'm sure that it applies to many, many others. Quote, I was floating through life being less connected and less serious about my Yiddishkeit. It had been many years since I made any sort of effort to attend minyanim during the week, and I had not opened a sefer in years. And then, on one hot, humid day in August of 2012, he attended the Siyum HaShas in this very stadium. And he was inspired to start learning Daf Yomi. And today, he is a different man. Quote, for me, it all started with Daf Yomi, the concept of every single day, regardless of whatever daily frustrations and challenges come our way, I could settle in with my new friends, the Tanoim and Amoraim, and set aside everything else and find Menuchas HaNefesh with the Gemara. One thing led to another, and I started to grow in my Yiddishkeit and started to feel a more serious and meaningful kesher with the Ribono Shel Olam. Both of my sons give Gemara Shiurim to Balabatim at night, and both report that the wives of these men express the feeling that their, quote, their husbands are different men. They are better husbands, better fathers, and better Yidden. And that is something that all women should keep in mind, because having a husband learn the Daf Yomi requires great sacrifices on your part. But besides the mitzvah of Talmud Torah that you will share in the Olam Haba, you will see immediate benefits in this world as well. You will have a different husband. During the last Shemitah, a group of non-frum Israelis were convinced to keep the Shemitah. In order for them to do something with their free time, a kollel was organized and they sat and learned. But the wives were not happy with their decision. Where would the money come from? But then something happened. Their wives saw a metamorphosis in their husbands. Their husbands became different people, better husbands and better fathers and better human beings. The women then became their biggest supporters because they saw what Limud HaTorah does to a Jew. Reb Chaim Volozhiner comments on the lashon of the word in the Mishnah in Pirkei Yovis, that the Mishnah says that Torah is machshirosai liyais tzadik v'chasid. Why the word machshirosai? Zokt Reb Chaim Volozhiner from the lashon of kasher. And just like kashering purges a utensil of its treifa ingredients, so too Torah purifies the person as well. And how it does that is beyond human comprehension. It is a gzeiris hakasuv. It is a chayk. Reb Simcha Zisel Brody, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, Chevron Rashiva, once commented on the famous Rashi in Parshas Bechukaisai. In Bechukaisai Teilechu, says Rashi, Shetiu Amelim Batera. If you will walk in my chukim, Zok Rashi, it means Limud HaTorah. But why is Torah referred to as a chayk? Torah isn't a chayk. Shatness is a chayk. Shatness is something that we don't understand. But Limud HaTorah is all about svara, understanding logic. The answer, said Rav Simcha Zisel, is that this is referring to the koyach HaTorah, the transformative power of Torah to change the human being. Or as Rav Simcha Zisel wrote, Masha yesh b'Torah skulois, the power of Torah to elevate and transform the person. I know somebody who started his kollel life in Eretz Yisrael. He moved into an apartment building in which none of the people were from. He wanted to start a shir with them. So he asked the Adam Gadol what he should learn with them. He was thinking something along the lines of the Mesilas Yesharim or Chayvus Halavavis. The Adam Gadol told him, Tilmod itam bava kama. And when he asked Adam Gadol, bava kama? Isn't that somewhat esoteric? Is it not relevant? And the Adam Gadol told him, Ata lo ma'amin b'koyach haTorah. You don't believe in the power of Torah. And guess what? Those people became frum because of learning bava kama. What's the takeaway message from this incredible event? To walk away from here without something practical, something lamaisa, would be a terrible waste. For those of you who have finished HaShas, you must take it to a new level. The Aguda has a list of 32 different programs in all sorts of technologies and formats to enhance your learning, whether in terms of helping you retain more what you learn, or to understand better, or to mamish be kaina a mesechta, or to make your own plan. Write down a ha'ara or two, a comment on two in every daf in Shas. You will look back 7.5 years later, and you will see you have a notebook that's full of learning and ha'aras on Shas. That's your Shas. Or look up the Rambam in every single daf that there's a Rambam, so you can walk away with a halacha l'maisa. And for those of you who haven't finished Shas, look around here, or look around in shul. You may be sitting next to someone who finished Shas. That person should inspire you. If he can do it, why can't I? Rav Pam once commented on a chazal, Misha haya raya David miyad chayzel talmudai. Any person who saw David HaMelech would right away go back to his learning. Rav Pam asked, why? Says Rav Pam, here was David HaMelech, king of an entire nation, running the affairs of state, waging wars, fending off different rebellions and plots, and yet we see how much Torah meant to David HaMelech. David HaMelech mentions Torah no less than 23 times in all of Sefer Tehillim, including such famous psukim as Zedi melitzuni ad ma'oid, Ma'ahavti seirasecha hi sichasi kol hayom, and Lulei seiroscha shashuai ozavadati miyonyi. We may not have David HaMelech to inspire us, but we have a neighbor, someone in shul, a fellow in the office, and we see his devotion to the daf no matter what. That should have the same effect as David HaMelech, Mishara David Chayzer Talmudai. And seeing that it can be done is what inspired the following person. Listen to this story. By his own admission, he wasn't exactly what we would call a learner. Neither I nor my wife had any real spiritual aspirations when we got married. Sure, we wanted to build a frum home, but the particulars were nebulous. My wife didn't care that I wasn't going to minyan. Torah learning was merely a suggestion. If it happened, great. If it didn't happen, so also great. Our primary concern was how much fun we can have, and the highlight of our week was Saturday night. He only came to this Siyum because he wanted to see last time what 100,000 Yidden looked like. And then he writes, the Siyum was an impressive event, but what really made an impact on me was the video of regular people from all walks of life saying, I finished HaShas. I finished HaShas. Long story short, by the time the fellow got to Seder Kachim, he was giving the Daf Yomi Shir. And it is no longer a Saturday night to them. Now it's Motzai Shabbos. That's what it means. Mishara David miyad chayzel Talmudai. There's an important lesson to learn from this person. When he asked himself, why can't I finish HaShas? He didn't say, that's ridiculous. Why should I even start? Do I actually think that I can keep this up for 2,711 days? And what will happen when I get to the difficult Masechtas of Yevamis, Krisis, and Erevin? Unfortunately, too many people make that mistake. They tell themselves, why bother? Why start? I can't finish. Then why begin? And anyone who thinks that way doesn't understand one of the great truths of life, and that is the perfect is the enemy of the good. It's the mindset of people who think that if I can't achieve perfection, then what's the point? And as a result, even the good is never achieved in all areas of life. But half of HaShas is better than none of HaShas. And one Seder is better than none. And one Masechta is good, even if it's not perfect. And don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. The Medrash speaks about two people who come into the base Medrash. One looks around and he sees people learning. He says, gee, that looks like exciting. And he asks the people, what do I do to be able to learn? And they start telling him what he has to learn. First you start with Chumash, and then you start with Nevi'im, and then you start with Ksuvim. And the person says, if that's what I have to do, then forget it. And he walks out of the base Medrash. Chazal used a pejorative on him. And that pejorative is a tipesh. He's a fool. And yet Chazal refer to the same person who walks in and he says, where do I start? And instead, Shoyne Perek Echad B'chol Yom Ad Shemisayim Es Kol HaTorah Kula. He's a pikeach because he knows the old expression that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and finishing HaShas begins with one blot. And he knows the wisdom of the perfect is the enemy of the good. Chazal say at the end of the days, this is an incredible Medrash Shenecha, that Ribbon Shalom will come to Klal Yisrael and he say, Bonai, anitama mikem, my children, I'm amazed. Heich himtamtem koloisa hashonim. How did you wait so long? How did you endure the gullus? How did you keep at it? And Klal Yisrael will respond, Ilulei seiroscha shenosato lanu kfar adnu. If it wouldn't be for the Torah, we would have been lost. That's what has kept us here. Lulei seiroscha sha'ashuai oz avadati b'onyi.